The scenes are rocking and rolling. Okay, so in this episode, what we're going to do, we're actually going to set up our master page project, right? Or really our design project. And we call it design project, but it's actually going to be design and front-end development for our Angular components. So if you look at the description of the previous video, there's a link to, and probably in this video as well. Yeah, I'll put it in both places. So it's going to be in both. There's a link to this job portal starter zip, right? All I've done was copy this zip here, right, in this labs folder. That's where I'm doing all my development. And I actually have extracted this to the job portal site. I'm sorry, job portal folder. So if you look in this guide, we have the deploy folder. And what we want to do, because I'm using SharePoint 2013, I'm going to just come in here and grab these files here. And what this is going to be, this is going to be a starter layout for one column, a layout for two columns, layout for the home page, and then the master page to where this has been pruned to and ready for custom design. So, and we'll walk through that. So the first thing I want to do, if I go back to this labs folder, let me go ahead and create a folder, and we're going to call this job portal, and I'm actually call this job portal sample. All right. Only because I've been playing around with this and I don't want to use the same name, but then all of a sudden those URL references reference something old and we have issue. So job portal sample, and in here, remember I still have those files copied, right? So in here, I'm gonna create master page folder, create another folder for style library. You want to name it exactly the way it's expected to be named in SharePoint, because these are going to map directly to those SharePoint galleries, the master page gallery and library. And then this folder here is going to be for design. And basically, this is just where we're dropping the design files. Okay, so I have those page layouts and master pages in my clipboard. I'm going to go ahead and paste those here. I want to rename these, but I'm going to do that once we get inside the Visual Studio project. Style library, master page. Okay, these are spelled right, and the casing, the spacing is right. Okay, so now what we want to do, let's go ahead and create. Oh no, just one last thing. So if you're going to starter, deploy, the design, I'm going to get all the design files out. So I'm just doing a select all, copy, go back to the labs, sample, design, and let's go ahead and paste this in, okay? All right, so once we have our job portal in there, we're good to go. I'm gonna delete these extra files. I hate noise, right? Try to keep things as simple and clean as possible. If I have to revert back to that zip file, I have it stored here on my desktop, so I'm not concerned about losing that piece. And now what we want to do is set up a Visual Studio project that maps directly to this guy. Now this is tricky, and it took me, you'd be surprised how long it took me to walk through these steps and get it down to where I was comfortable enough to show you via a video, and hopefully I don't stumble. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is fire up Visual Studio Community 2017. Go down here and hit Create New Project. And once we do Create New Project, no, see, I'm screwing up. You go to File here, New, and what you want to do is New Website. And once you create a new website, it's going to give you this direct path here. I'm going to just go ahead and browse and map that to the root folder, in my case, job portal sample, right? And underneath that, that's where we create design, master page, and library. So we go to the root, hit OK, and hit OK again. Okay, now here you want to select open the existing website. They call these folders websites. It's still going to get it wrong, but it's fine. I think this is the part I was getting hung up on, but it's fine. We have to do some changes once we do this, but we're fine. So select the middle option, open the existing website, hit OK. And what it's going to do is going to bring in all of that site, that root folder, and then all the subfolders that we created. The problem with this structure is that we need each one, the master page, the style library, and design to be 3 separate websites within this solution, right? So what we need to do, we need to actually go up here and say remove. It doesn't delete the folder, it just removes it from the Visual Studio solution. Do a right click and hit add existing website. Okay. Once you do existing website, and then you could bring in these guys individually. So the first thing I'm gonna do is bring in design, and that comes in as its own website. And then I'm gonna bring in existing website again, master page, existing website again, style library. Okay. And it's important that we have this structure, right? And these guys are their own individual websites because when we start to set up the publishing profile in order to push these up to SharePoint, is key, is critical because these goes into two different locations in SharePoint. So it's critical to make sure that we are mapping these to the correct way. That's why they have to be individual so they all get their own individual profile. Okay, so let's do some renaming. The first thing we want to do is I like to prefix everything. Like obviously we don't want to deploy this as pub starter 2013. We want to name it as for our solution. So I'm gonna just call this guy job portal dot master. That's fine. And for these guys, I'm okay with this being content because this is like a content page, single column, content page, dual column, two column. So I'm gonna just do a JP prefix in front of all these guys, even with the home. And this is just something that I do. I'm not gonna call it a best practice, but it's just one of those things that if everything has the same prefix and when you look at them in the master page gallery, they're all grouped together. So that way they aren't scattered like, okay, some content types are further down in the list, some are further up in the list. If I prefix everything, everything kind of gets mashed together. I'm not too concerned with the master page, but the layouts I definitely want to keep together. The master page kind of floats on its own and it has its own little set of changes. Okay, so what's next? Let's go ahead and add our job portal folder in the style library. And basically everything underneath, this is going to be the root for our application, right? And this just helps you prime the way if you have multiple apps in the same site collection. So this is going to be the app, the folder for our application. And inside here, we're going to have an app folder, just call it apps. And then we're going to have a design folder. No, let's not do that. Okay, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's not worry about that. So app is where all of your apps for Angular is going to live, and then everything below outside of apps is going to be for your design files. One thing you would notice, I am not storing my design files in the master page gallery, and the reason for that is because one, I think it seems like a disconnect to say, okay, I want to have all my related files in the same place that my master page lives. That's a good argument. But I think what kind of drove me to separate them out is because there are certain pieces within Angular that requires the style library because we actually stream or we need to render HTML pages. And the style library and asset library seems to have this weird configuration that enables that out of the box. I think for other libraries, you have to do some tweaking to make that happen. So that's one reason why I do it. And the other reason is just a clear separation. I think master page is supposed to be for master pages and page layouts because that's where those get configured. And because style library, given its name, that's where all the styles and related JS files and all that other stuff live. Okay. All right, so let's take a quick look at our design, just make sure we didn't break anything. So we should be able to right click on this and view browser. And all of this looks okay. I think we're good to go. So that's rendering fine within IS Express. And what we want to do now, we want to, because we removed that project and we added these websites as existing projects, we need to save this solution file explicitly for the very first time. So now what you want to do is to save, save as, and this is your SLM file. And what you have to do, because by default it's going to be under the Visual Studio 2017 path, where Visual Studio by default stores all your projects, we actually want to move this to our labs folder. So right under the root that we created for the solution, job portal sample, you just want to save it there. And now you're good to go. So everything should be saved. You should be able to safely close this guy out. Go into your job portal, double click on the S solution file, and everything should magically reload. Magically. Boom. Okay, so we're good to go. So the other pieces I want to do before we kind of jump into configuring this guy for publishing and all this other good stuff, let's just do a quick walkthrough on how this master page file is set up. Again, this is coming from the starter, and you should have a link to that zip file. And basically, this is based on, I want to say this is based off of Seattle or Oslo, one of the two. Oslo, it looks like Oslo. That's the theme there. And basically, what I've done was I went through here and segment a lot of this stuff out, and I cheated a little bit and got you all configured for the style library. I kind of picked a folder name for you. Obviously, you can go up here and you can change this folder name to wherever you want, wherever makes sense for you. So this guy is wired up to say, okay, I got all my JS files loading here in the style library. I'm using this weird syntax notation. If you're familiar with SharePoint and custom master pages, you know that you kind of need this, that literal tag, which is very, very ugly, just so that you can specify which site collection these guys should live in. Because if we do the simple standard HTML way, there's no way to dynamically identify the site collection, which is a SharePoint ism. Um, so, through a relative path, you will be struggling trying to figure that out, right? So what else? So this is all primed up. We're getting into this structure here. I'm all primed up for the app. You see, that's why I created the app folder there. This is where all of our Angular pieces and components will live. No design file should be under your app, right? Anything that's related to the design itself should be separate. This guy here, this is jQuery. This path is incorrect. We're going to update this guy based on whatever the designer tells us to put those files. If you look under here, we have a mapping for all the CSS pieces. Obviously, this is incomplete, so we're going to have to add more here. The first one is for your app CSS. I think this is going to get replaced with whatever the designer tells us to do for the CSS piece, and we're going to walk through segmenting those out. I don't think we're going to have time to do that through this video, so I think the next video we're actually going to convert that the designer's files into this custom master. But this guy here, this SP overwrite, obviously we have to create this because this guy doesn't exist. This SP overwrite is meant to be, you always run into those things where the designer has everything styled one way, and then SharePoint tries to override it because they have these global type definitions, like for all buttons, do this, for all div tags or H2 tags or H1 tags, do this. And if the designer, for what, as they're designing their pieces of it, if they do not define those at that global level, you kind of get a mix of SharePoint trying to enforce its styling and rules on top of the designers. So these overrides are meant to write these custom files. I'm sorry, these little styles to override the SharePoint isms, so that way our design looks exactly the way that the designer made accounted for those. Again, the designer did not consider SharePoint when they created their design. So they just created a standard generic design that's really best practices and UX for a job portal, regardless of how it's going to be hosted. It could be MVC, it can be WordPress, it can be Sitecore, it can be any other, CMS platform or a custom platform. So this is going to make sure that whatever SharePoint is trying to do, we can override those and get those nice and tidy. What else? Uh, bu- 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 Everything else is, if you kind of go through this a little bit, it kind of shows you where the references are made. This top piece here, I'm surprised I didn't label this section. I want to say this is mostly screen reader stuff for accessibility. Yeah, so a lot of that piece is in there. This is the O365 waffle, and really I think this is a carryover for 2016. This is going to be I want to say the gray bar at the top, right? And that's all. Oh no, that's the gray bar. I don't know what this section is. I have to look at SharePoint. Hold on. Let's bring up SharePoint. What is this section? Oh, that's that blue bar, the blue newsfeed OneDrive site. Okay, let's label that. So you're going to have to do that on your side too. So this is going to be newsfeed top blue bar, right? It's going to be that section with the SharePoint label. So if we need to hide this, we know exactly where to go to hide it. And that's the intent, right? So basically, I just went through and pruned this master page, leveraging the out of the box, whatever came with this installation of SharePoint. There's the gray strip there, so we know where that piece is. There's the web part updated. This is the part that you see once you're in edit mode, get to the web part gallery and all this other good stuff. The custom UI starts here. So really, out of all of this, and this is why most developers find customizing master pages in SharePoint so much difficult, because really this block here, and of course this prune is a lot nastier than what appears here, but this block here is where your custom UI should go. And we'll talk about how to break this up to make it very simplistic and very minimized, minimal, and so it's easy to support and easy to identify the different components. But really, so line 393 to 413, this chunk here is all the custom stuff. Everything else is all out of the box SharePoint. And there's a lot, right? And it's just one of those things where I think that's why it was important to give you a starter, because if you can ignore everything above this and below this and just focus on this chunk right here, I'll show you how you can make this thing super, super simple and integrate almost any custom design within SharePoint and actually have it responsive, right? Because what we've done was that we removed everything that had table tags, and really that's the thing that really keeps most of this stuff from being responsive out of the box. There's a lot of out of the box tables used in a lot of these different controls, or even within the HTML that you get by default anyway. And it just, tables are just bad unless you really have a primer for those to make those responsive. Okay, so this is good to go. And I think we are primed and ready. Okay, so what we want to do now is let's go ahead and configure. Only change I made was to the comment section. Let's go ahead and configure publishing for this guy. Now, in order to do this, let's just take a look at this. We're going to have to go a little old school, and this can kind of be a pain in the butt, but hopefully you already have this configured. We want to go to the gear icon, site contents, and I'm at the root site, right? Any site collection, so just be at the root web of your site collection. And obviously, this should be a publishing site collection. And I'm gonna go into the style library and click on the library tab and basically just open this in Explorer view. Now, in order to configure publishing, you have to do this step first. And in order to configure publishing, you have to have this wired up to where you can view it in Explorer view, right? So publishing for Visual Studio. All right. So now I have this guy, and so let me just give you a couple of hints. If you're trying to do this and you get an error, a couple of things you can do is go into the gear icon of your browser. Now, a couple of things. This must be Internet Explorer. I don't think it works in Edge. It definitely doesn't work in Chrome or Firefox. So this must be Internet Explorer. And in your internet options, you want to go to, let's see, content or security. Security, go into trusted sites, and then add your URL, right, to wherever you're going. Add that URL to your trusted sites, and then hit OK. That one piece, and now you may have to close all instances of your browser for Internet Explorer. Go back to the website and then try it again. It should work. Usually, that's the one piece that you have to tinker with in order to get this Explorer view to work. Now, once we're in Explorer view, I want to delete this guy. Go all the way up to the .com portion of the site, or the root domain of your site. Oop, I didn't hit enter. And we want the web-dav URL, or UNC path, right? So this thing is working okay. And it seems like you can only get that if you go to the root, highlight the root directory of the dav root, and then copy this guy. So you want to make sure it begins with almost like a network share, the // and then your name, whatever. Or if you're thrifty, you can actually formulate this. Basically, it's just the domain piece of your SharePoint site, followed by dav root, root. So now we have that. We're going to go to the master page and then go to publish web. And because we don't have a profile set up, we have to go ahead and create this. And basically, we're going to do a file path custom profile. So we want to give this a name. So actually, because you can do this, like if you have browser access to your SharePoint site, you can do this in any environment. So what I try to do is name the destination. In this case, it's going to be master page, and followed by the environment. So as time goes on, if I'm working at a particular client location, it will be dev and QA and then prod and so on and so forth. Obviously, prod is probably not something you would do here. You would have more of a automated process deploying a prod. But if you wanted to push this to dev or multiple different environments, this is where you do it. And it also works with different site collections as well. It's just really all about the root piece of that DAB. So if I go to file system as the publish method, I'm gonna just go ahead and paste this guy in. Now, because this is the master page gallery, I know, and as a developer, you know as well, underscore catalogs. Here's the danger of typing this in manually. Master page, no space, no S as well. So underscore catalogs master page, that's going to give us the path to the master page gallery. If you are in doubt, just go to site settings, go to the master page gallery, and then just open this guy up in Explorer view. Okay, now remember our slashes are going to be it's going to be going the opposite way, and obviously we're going to have the dub. So if you wanted to go ahead and manually readjust this, what seems like a web URL address to a UNC path address, you know how to do // for that, get rid of the HTTP, // for that, and you should be good to go. So underscore catalogs master page, let's double check underscore catalogs master page. We're good to go. Hit next. Um, the one thing I do not do, like I don't select delete all files or anything like that. I do select exclude files from the app data folder. We definitely don't want those getting pushed up. The compile piece doesn't apply to us. The database doesn't apply to us. Hit next. Okay, we're ready to go. So go ahead and hit publish. So before I do that, let me just confirm. Right, there are no changes here. Let me sort by modified date. When is the last modified change for this site collection? Oh, pub started. Oh, let's get rid of this. This is me playing around, sorry. So let's go to files. Let's delete this guy. He's not being used. That's me playing around trying to get everything ready for this video. Okay, so everything is 10/24, 10/20/2014. Good. This guy's ready to publish, so just go ahead and publish it out. All right, so what you can do in your output folder, if you look at the web publishing activities and hit view details, it will show you everything that's getting pushed up to the SharePoint site. Okay, so we got very lucky, or Deshaun tried this 16 times already, so this thing works on the first go. Okay, if you follow my steps exactly, you should be able to get yours working on the first go as well. Okay, so now if we go to the SharePoint master page gallery, hit refresh. Oh, I deleted that file. Okay, so here's our new files. Easy as pie. Okay, so now we have the master page gallery, we have the page layouts and all this other good stuff. Now these guys, because they're master page files, they're not ready for prime time. In order to get them ready for prime time, we have to go in here, and this is what the WSP does for us behind the scenes, right? Well, not really. As a developer, you're used to going into that. Is it SP data or XML file and wiring that up to content types and telling it the type, the file type, and all this other good stuff. But we don't get that when we use the publishing. So the good news is, the bad news is, let me give you the bad news first. The bad news is we have to go in here and manually configure these. The good news is you only have to do that once per new file, right? So let's go ahead and do that for the master page. So we go to the master page, you go to edit properties. This is going to pop open, change this down to ASP.NET master page, right? We're not using the HTML master, which again was a great attempt by Microsoft to try to ease things up, but I think it added more confusion than clarity. Okay, so title, job portal, master. All right,
And we want to make this compatible for 15. And this is SharePoint 2013. So if you're doing 7 2016, you want to do 16, right? Everything else is going to be empty. We save it off and do one other thing for me. Go here and publish the major version. All right. So now this guy is primed and ready to go. So now if we go to the site, site settings, gear icon, go to the master page, this guy appears as an option. We hit job portal, go here, boom. This is our custom master page, right? And because I pulled everything out as far as like the div tags and all this other good stuff, we are pushed from side to side, right? There's no padding there. And if I collapse this guy, there's no horizontal scroll bar there, right? So this guy is ready for responsive design. Is it responsive? No. It doesn't have the Twitter bootstrap and all the other stuff that's telling it the grid system and how to collapse and stack and all this other good stuff and the breakpoints. But we don't have any tables that's keeping it from being responsive, and that's the key. So the primer for this is set up. Let's go back to the master page gallery because we got more work to do. Now what we want to do, let's go ahead and sort this by modified. Okay, you see how nice it is, the renaming, how all my JP stuff is there? Oh, because I sorted by modified. Okay, if I sort by name, you see how nice it is that all my JP stuff is there? Okay, so now let's go in here and edit the page layout. We want to make sure this is page layout. JP, single one column layout, okay? This is how we communicate to our content managers. And the content type group is going to be publishing and nope, sorry. Page layout content type, and I'm just going to go with the default article page. Okay, keep it simple for now. If we need custom content type, we'll do that. And that's it. Save that off and publish it. All right, let me sort by modified because it just keeps me on track with what was last changed. All right, and do the same thing for home, and then go back to the same thing for the 2 column. Okay, so just real quick, boom, 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 page layout. I'm gonna just leave that there. Boom, 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 publishing. No, Deshaun. Page dump, bump, bump, done. Okay, and publish this guy. Okay, and do the 2 column. Same steps. Page layout. Boom, 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 boom. Page layout. Got it right. And save. And publish major. All right, done. All right, so that's everything. So now what I can do, I can come here to my default page, and we want to use the home page layout for this guy, right? So we go to page tab, and then go ahead and change this to JP home, right? And that's that. And another thing we're gonna do, we're not gonna do this now. Actually, yeah, let's just go ahead and do it now. So I'm just going ahead and publish this up. I need to get rid of all those out of the box page layouts because those are not custom, right? And we don't want content managers messing around with them. So I'm gonna just go to the pages here and say, hey, only use this guy, and this guy. That's it. We only have 3, right? And then hit OK. Obviously, we can add more if needed, but let's just keep it simple. And now this way, when they go to edit, I know you know this. I'm just doing this for my sanity. We lock them down to only our 3 options, right? So that way it's like, hey, I use the blank web part page and I don't see the design. Well, because we're not geared for that. All right, so this is good. Check out. Just say discard. Okay, now we're ready for prime time, I think. So let's just go ahead and test our change. Let's go ahead to the home page, page layout, and let's just put some artificial text here. Just give the H2 tag. Hello, Deshaun. And check this out. Right click, publish, right? Now I modified the home page layout. Come here, hit refresh. I hard coded some text. And where is my hello Deshaun? Hoo, hoo, hoo. See how simple that is? You don't have to deploy a WSP, wait for IIS to reset, and everything refreshes. And you, especially if you're designing CSS and JavaScript, right? You don't have those types of 30-second, 45-second cycles, right, between changes and updates will cost you a lifetime. This is set up to where you can publish this easy, simple as pie, real time. Don't have to go and wire things up again. You're ready to go. Okay. Last thing before we rock and roll here, let's go ahead and do the same thing for our style library. All right. So we go to publish web, custom, you do style. Again, this is just a label. If you have multiple environments, help you understand what's what, right? Uh, this guy hit file system. What do I have in my paste? Ah, nice. All right, backslash style. This is weird. I always want to call this styles library with an S, and I sometimes forget the space in the middle. So style space library. Next, again, for publishing options, exclude app data files. Next, and then hit publish. All right. This is weird that this is up. This shouldn't be here. So I'm gonna move this to, yeah, this should be down. Man, this should be down. No, wait, wait. Yeah, there should be a tab there. What else? Manage console. I don't know why these are in my upper pane. Error list. All this stuff should be down. Yeah, I only want my files here. Okay. All right. Namespace doesn't exist. Are you missing a reference? What happened here? Oh, Deshaun Clark. I screwed up. Okay, let's clean up. I know what I did. I copied. Let's look at publish web. Let's go to connection. No, this is right. What's going on? Hmm. This is this looks weird. Why did I get it? Oh, I always get an app data file. Okay, never mind. Succeeded. Never mind. I'm freaking out for nothing. Sorry. All right, so let's go here. Let's just double check in the style library. So let's go to gear icon, site contents. Let's go to the style library. We should have a job portal. No, we don't. We don't have it. It's not there. All right, what did we do wrong? No, sorry, what did I do wrong? All right, so I hit refresh here. I just want to make sure I didn't deploy this thing to the wrong spot. It's not case sensitive, so I'm not concerned with that. I'm definitely concerned with the spelling and all this other good stuff. Style library. Huh, it didn't make it. Style library. Okay, what's going on? Oh, of course. Yes, yes, yes. Publishing has this weird thing that if there are empty folders, aka zero files, it will not deploy that entire folder structure. So we need to add a file here. So let's go to add, let's add our environment.js file. And I'll let you know in the future what this file is used for. We're actually going to, let's spell it right, environment.js, right? And in this file, oh my goodness, what is Visual Studio? What are you doing? All right, so in this file, we want to declare a global variable g custom API, and we're just going to set that to an empty string. All right, say that all. Okay, now let's deploy. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just deploy. So this is all wired up for publishing, right? It just didn't push anything because everything was empty. Now that I have a file, I'm gonna right click this guy and hit publish, and it should publish. It should publish the entire folder structure now, and that's what it says it's doing. So let's go out here and double check. Hit refresh. Job portal app. Oh, checked out. Ooh, this is not good. Okay, so one of the things that you definitely want to do right off the bat is to configure your style library to disable um, require checkout. And there's another setting we want to do. So let's do that now. So go to the library tab, hit library settings, and let's go down to version settings. And required content approval should be no.
create major versions. That's fine. Let's create some safety nets here. So let's just keep the last 20 versions for each file, right? So if we fat finger something or if we screw something up, just kind of be a way that we can revert back. Obviously, you should line up source control for this guy as well. Um, who should see, okay, anyone who can read items can see drafts, right? This is important because when we use this publishing process, as you saw, it doesn't publish all the files, right? So that if there were some pros and cons to this process, one of the cons would be you're pushing these files out and none of these are getting published major versions. So but we can get around that. You can write a PowerShell script or you can write a console job or a batch job or something like that to get around that. So we're not going to worry about that now. But when we go to production, obviously you want to make sure that this is pushed. Required documents to be checked out. You want to say no to this because everything we push these guys up, we don't want to have to go through the painstaking task of going through each file and checking those in. All right, so let's go ahead and hit no. Unfortunately, changing that setting after you deploy does not fix the problem for existing files. So what I'm gonna do, because this thing is so simple to do, I'm gonna just go up here and delete this guy and re-push him out. Okay, and publish again. And go back to this guy, hit refresh. Always do that after I delete a file, I hit refresh. Okay, so now we go down, everything's good. So everyone should be able to see it. It's going to be one of those things where if you don't enable, like allow read access to readers with view access or read access to view draft files, everything has to be checked in for your end user to see it. And that becomes a pain in the butt. Again, we should write a publishing process when we're deploying this to prod or UAT or any other environment other than dev to get those wired up. Okay, so that's it for this video. So we covered a lot, right? So we set up our Visual Studio environment. We set up our, we got all the publishing settings wired up. We took a quick spin through the master page and how that's structured. In the next video, now what we want to do is start the process with getting this index.html file looking like our master page and home page layout. Okay, so that's coming up next. All right, see you in the next video. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, turn on notifications. Please leave comments on anything that you've seen that was unclear, need clarity, any adjustments I can make to make this experience that much better. That would be very helpful. Okay, see you in the next video.